Welcome to another sprint demo from the Evernym Indy, the team at Evernym contributing to Indy and the Sovereign Network. We're excited to share with you what we've been working on. We've had two major initiatives that we've been tackling. We split into two subject areas. Our Indy Node team has been very focused on completing the audit ledger and completing the multi-signature permission scheme, moving that to the config ledger where people can have more control over how those permissions work for their network. I don't know why GR keeps going to the bottom. Let's go up to the top. So we've made good progress there. We're going to be able to talk about that in more detail today on both of those topics. And we've done some other cleanup items that should improve stability and especially around view change. So that'll be nice. On the SDK side, most of our focus over the last 2 weeks has been on the core architecture questions. Now that we have a defined set of protocols for agent-to-agent compatibility, what is the role of the SDK in encouraging compatibility between those protocols, between agents that want to share that protocol? We think having the SDK provide that compatibility will assist people in the community and maintain that compatibility as we evolve these protocols over time. Is the connection protocol and the credential exchange protocol will evolve that over time, but also as we add new protocols, such as a protocol for wallet management or relationship state management, things like that. So we've put together a proposal for that architecture. We're going to get feedback on that proposal. Every Thursday, we have an Indy working group call with a number of community contributors. We're excited for that call. It's going to be in a couple hours. And we're going to get feedback on our current proposal. We'll probably spend much of the next sprint continuing to evolve that proposal based on that feedback. And we also have implemented some items to assist with managing those permissions that are put on the config ledger. And we fixed some bugs. So good progress from that team as well. That's the overview of what we've completed. For today's sprint demo, we're gonna dig into details on that new architecture and our thinking at this point in time. We're looking forward to your feedback. You can always provide feedback in Jira. That's why we have the issue numbers here in the video. You can also join us at chat.hyperledger.org. That's a Rocket Chat instance. And you can get a Linux Foundation account and share your feedback with us there. So as you listen to the recording, as you participate in the recording, please do share that feedback with us. It will guide our plans. And Sergey will talk about where those plans are public, so you can get feedback there as well. And then we'll go into how the new auth rules work, and then we'll talk about the audit ledger. And we've done some improvements as well to the way GitHub is organized. How we manage versions and things like that. So we'll talk about that as well. With that, I'll stop sharing my screen. Let Sergey share his so we can talk about the new architecture.
Thank you, Richard. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen. As already mentioned by Richard, our team mostly focused on new architecture for Indy SDK. So you can see some tickets around it, and there is a link from these tickets to Google Documents. For now, these documents is only internal, and we have some active discussion inside our team and inside Evernym. So we are going to finish initial round of our discussion this week and share this document to community at the next week. So I would like to point out some principal part of this document. So first of all, there is some overview and there is some discussion point. So I expect that part of them will be resolved during this problem. Will be for community discussion around, for example, pluggable interfaces, etc. Also, there is just a very short but very important part about Indy SDK structure in general, like V6 currently inside Indy SDK, but it's more likely a framework, and it's going to be separate library and going to be outside Hyperledger repo. So libindy most probably will be extended to support some extra agent-to-agent functionality, etc. And we are also going to provide some drafts, some proposal around new API, and would like to have a community discussion. Will this API be useful for writing agents, or we have to change it somehow? So also we have links from this document to some sequence diagram. I'd like to share it from my data. So the major point here is we're trying to give application a chance to apply some business logic, and at the same time provide some valuable checks like, is it possible to change state of current message agent-to-agent process from one state to the next one? So I think this diagram already in public, and it's the third major part of our current proposal. And I hope all of these parts will be available for community discussion next week. I think that's it. So thank you, and I'm open for any questions.
And so these documents are, Google Documents are great for real-time collaboration about specific sentences and things, but they're not great for long-term archiving. The end result is, the end result is for this document to move into the design folder of the GitHub SDK repo. So
exactly, thank you, Richard.
Yeah, so we will, our expectation is to, I'm pausing so Sergey can correct me, to make this public at the time we post this video so people can see the link, but that YouTube link will eventually go stale and people will want to look at GitHub. So is that reasonable, Sergey, for external people to look at?
Sure.
The other information, of course, we'll talk about this on the Indy Working Group call. I forgot to mention, you can find out, if you're watching this video, you can find out the details about Indy Working Group at the Hyperledger community calendar, and that's in the Hyperledger wiki. So that'll give you the exact connection details to join that. Every Thursday we have that working group call. So thank you, Sergey. That was a good overview, good feedback. So Artem, let's talk about the new auth credential. The new auth permission commands. Words escape me.
Hello, everyone. So my demo is about authentication rule command. Last sprint demo, Indy Node team presented for us how it was integrated into config ledger, and now I would like to tell how we integrated it into Indy SDK and Indy CLI. First, I would like to remind that there is a table in Indy Node repository which reflects a set of default actions can be performed, and the auth rule transaction allows to change any of these actions, but it doesn't allow to add new one. So into Indy SDK has been added new API function which allows to build this transaction request. This function has several params. This params describes an action which request are going to perform, and the constraint params describes a set of restrictions which the transaction sender must satisfy. Now I would like to show a little demo by using Indy CLI, what we can do by using this transaction. I have last Indy CLI master build installed on my machine. I already have done several preparation steps. I have opened wallet pool, and also I have trusted seed. And now I want to create new one did. I want to publish it did on the ledger. Well, now I want to switch on this DIT my Indy CLI. And now I want to try send the schema transaction from this DIT. I want to notice that this DIT doesn't have any role, but if we go to the auth rule map, for sending a schema transaction to the ledger, we need to have is a trust steward or trust anchor role. Let's check and try code test version 1.0 and attributes test again. Oh, it's all represented. Let's try another one. Let me try again. I switch on trusty and ledger name bit. Okay. Most probably I already changed certification rule on the ledger during demo preparation. Now I have to switch on the trusty.
So while you resolve that,
I would like to show if we trying to send the schema transaction from the DIT which doesn't have a specific role, we will have reject. But now I'm going to send the auth rule transaction which specifies auth rule for this request. Well, let's try again.
Yeah, and for our friends at the Sovereign Foundation who are viewing this, because Lynn always does, you'll want to play with these auth rules to get a sense of what are the different roles and rules you can put on the ledger. And we need to work through so that users of the Indy code base, such as the Sovereign Network, need to decide what rules they want. Because with the next upgrade, you can define these rules whatever way makes sense for you. So it's a good opportunity for people to think about that.
We got reject now, so I don't have any roles, and I get an Indy Node error that on the trusty steward is a trust anchor can send schema transaction. Now I would like to switch on trusted it. And I would like to set a new authentication rule for schema transaction. By this certification rule, I will allow sending a schema transaction for any user, even if he doesn't have a specific trusty role. Here is my command. It has been successfully posted on the ledger. And let's try to send schema again. I think I has in my cache, and now I want to send schema. Well, I'm successfully posted a new schema this time. I want to remember that I don't have required role used by the required by default. So that's it. Also, I want to notice the current Indy SDK build supported auth rule request, but there is no Indy Node which supported corresponding get transaction for this. Indy SDK repo already contains a pull request which all required work is done, and in the near future we are going to merge it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Artem. Really useful. So thank you very much. Now, Sergey is going to share his screen and talk about the Audit Ledger. The Audit Ledger resolves a lot of concerns with ensuring that the different ledgers in the network are caught up in the right order, and that we can always know what was the state of when we put these permissions on the config ledger. How do we know what the state of those permissions were at the time this specific write went to the domain ledger? And so we've been working on this for the last couple of months. You can learn more about it by looking at previous videos. And Sergey's going to talk about the current state.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yep.
And hopefully you can see my screen.
Looks good.
So I'm going to talk about another improvement to Indy Node, which is implementation of Audit Ledger aware catch-up logic. So first of all, why we need this? Actually, current catch-up logic is a bit flawed. It can fail when there are writes to more than one ledger during catch-up. So this is a problem under high load when there are writes to different ledgers, and this is a problem under any load when there are requests that update several ledgers at once. And actually adding Audit Ledger without improving catch-up logic just made this even worse, because now any request writes to two ledgers, at least to two ledgers, audit and the ledger that is connected to this request. For example, for when we are writing names, they're written both into the main ledger and audit ledger. So I'm going to describe first a fail case and then describe how we fix this. Suppose we have a pool and some node detects that it's lagging. For example, it's just joined, or it had some network outage, so it starts catching up and pool continues ordering. So on the left we have a pool, a state of ledgers in pool, and on the right we have state of ledgers of a lagging node. Node manages to catch up audit ledger and ledger A. Next, the pool orders two more transactions in both ledgers A and B, and these transactions are all secured by lagging node, so that they have a chance to be applied after catch-up is finished. Since old catch-up logic tries to synchronize each ledger independently, it just catches up ledger B and catches up transaction 5. And now we have a problem, because on the lagging node, transaction 5 is applied before transaction 4 has any chance to be processed. So lagging node tries to apply to transactions. It applies transaction 4, and it applied before transaction 5, so ordering is broken. And if ledgers are independent, that's probably not the problem. But if there is some interledger logic which allows transaction 5 to block transaction 4, so they can go in one way but not another, then transaction 4 will be discarded, and lagging node will have a different ledger from the other pool, so it will fall out of consensus.
And it's worth pointing out, we specifically saw this as we've been working on a payment layer for Indy. that having the payments and the fees for the rights, if they occur out of order, then it all blocks.
Yes, it was very similar. Well, there are some details, but well, the whole idea is still this. And another problem, if ledgers A and B are independent and transactions are applied, then we will have another problem with audit ledger, since when we attempt to order next transaction, it will be it will try to apply to the different audit ledger, so we have them different on this node, so the node will still be out of consensus. So how this is fixed? Suppose we have the same situation, pool and lagging node, and the lagging node starts a catch up. But the difference now is that when Node catches up Audit Ledger, it knows how many transactions are in other ledgers when it started catch up. So next it catches up ledger A, then pull orders 2 more transactions, and they're queued by leading node. But then when leading node tries to catch up ledger B, it knows that it doesn't have any new transactions here when the catch up was started. So it ignores new transactions and stops the catch up. After catch up is finished, all queue transactions are applied and everything is fine. And I'm going to show some test. We have a test for this. Well, now it's passing. It tries to model a situation very similar to what I described. It's a bit simpler, but it still shows the problem. So now test is passing. Just a couple of seconds. Yes, it's passed. But if I disable the new logic in the catch-up and try to run this test again, it will fail. And test is called test slow catch-up while ordering, so it can be understood that what about this test is. Well, actually it will take a bit more time, but it will fail in the end.
While we wait for that to finish, the goal of the team is to have this released in the March release of Indy Node. We're a couple of days behind schedule, but we still think we can get it done in the next 2 weeks. So that's when you can expect to see this. And that release should also contain the ability to put permissions on the config ledger, though there's still some additional work that needs to be done before that'll fulfill all the use cases it's meant to.
Yes, well, probably you can see that this test already takes a lot more time than when it passed, and actually it will fail in under, I suspect, 1.5 minutes. Oh, yes, it's failed. So that's all from me. Any questions?
Thank you. That was really useful. So thank you for that, Sergey. We've only got a couple minutes left. Let's let Andrey K share his screen and take us through the improvements to the core organization, the GitHub organization.
Hello. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it looks good.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to present new release logic. Changes are coming. So let's talk what's wrong with the current one. So currently, the main source of problems with release logic and development workflow is the Jenkins job build number is a part of the version. So it become a part of the packages and release numbers. We use server-like versioning, and build number is a third digit, which in server called patch number. So it leads to, so I think that we can be sure what next release number will be, because, for example, pipeline might fail because of some network connection problems or something else, and we will have to restart the pipeline and we will get new release version. So we have a loose correlation between source code and release numbers, release packages, because in source code we have only 2 digits. So we also have big difference between master and stable code, because release versions are part of our migration script names, and these migration script names are different between master and stable. Also, this breaks version precedence for piping and Debian packages, and we have to use a separate package for master in the plenum. And yes, it's of course have a set of divergences with semantic version. So also it leads to the fact that our stable branch is actually not stable at the moment we commit to the stable branch, because OK validation happens only after the code is merged to stable. So what we are going to change? New source code and package versioning would be like you can see on the slides. So we have a combination of Python PEP specification and firmware. So we have major minor patch, and also we have pre-release patch for development and release candidates. For Debian, we introduced TIDA. It will help to keep correct version precedence for stable and development release packages. And Junker job build number will be only a part of dev packages to reduce number of manual work during development. So changes to branches. We would have release and hotfix branches, which will hold all release candidates for new releases or hotfixes accordingly. So only QA approved release candidate would be merged to stable, and stable and changes to stable are merged only as fast forward to preserve the commit that was fully validated. And also it will help to keep changelog up to date and keep and finalize it. So it is supposed that we will update changelog during development, and changelog finalizing would be as simple as just renaming dev header in changelog to release 1. So currently the most development is done, and we are in the state of build pipelines verification. So that's all from me. Thank you.
These are great. It solves the problem where we've had previous node releases like 1.6.82 followed by 1.6.85. It's going to be much easier to talk about what specific release we have at any point in time. This mostly applies to Indy Node and Indy Plenum. Indy SDK's build numbers were more rational before, so but the general process we want to be consistent. So thank you for all your work, Andrey, on that. So the goal is to release Indy Node at the end of March with the Audit Ledger improvements. We do expect to have a bug fix release out for Indy SDK 1.8.2. that will have a number of pull requests and contributions that people made and various bug fixes. So that's the goal for the next couple of weeks. Besides that, we're continuing the course we've laid out. So thank you very much for everybody. We look forward to getting feedback in Jira as well as in on Rocket Chat or in any of the calls. So on chat.hyperledger.org or on any of the calls we participate in. Or the mailing list, of course, the Hyperledger mailing list. So with that, thank you very much. Have a good talk. We'll put another video up in 2 weeks. Bye.